up. I thought thanks for everyone for making it. I appreciate that, and as a reward for being here a little bit early. Did you hear about that? Oh, such a tragedy. Such a tragedy about the poor dyslexic devil worshiper who really screwed up and sold his soul to Santa. Such a sad thing. Dyslexic Santa. Okay. Speaking of Santa, I'm absolutely convinced that guy has riverfront property in Brazil. All month long during this holiday season, we keep getting packages from the Amazon. It's just amazing. Yeah, let's go another direction. Yeah, it is a tough crowd. You know, Friday, what's happening Friday? How many people in here can know what's happening Friday this week? Opening weekend of Star Wars: The Force Awakens. Oh, come on. I thought there'd be people here who's going to be in line for that. Well, that's where they probably are. They're probably in line waiting to get in, even though it's a few days ahead. That makes sense. Well, isn't it kind of interesting how the movies came out in the order of 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3? Because in charge of sequence, Yoda was. Because he speaks backwards. A little bit of trivia to amaze your friends who are Star Wars fans with. Yoda's last name, very little known trivia fact, is Lehihu. So say it out loud.
What? I didn't pick up on that.
Yoda's last name is Lehihu.
Okay, great.
Yoda Lehihu. Okay, we'll get started. That's the first time someone's answered to the phone. That's awesome. What we're going to be talking today is about snow and ice related to what MnDOT does with snow and ice. And so we've got two great speakers from the Office of Maintenance who've come out to educate us on a couple of different aspects of it. One is Kathy Schaefer and the other is Joe Hunnicky. Kathleen has been the circuit trainer with the Minnesota LTAP. What's that stand for? Local Technical Assistance Program since 2002. Prior to that, she was a maintenance worker with MnDOT. As a circuit trainer, Kathleen conducts a wide variety of classes to city, county, and state maintenance workers across the state. They include snow and ice material application, snowplow standard calibration, gravel road maintenance and dust control, vegetation management and erosion and sediment control, work zone temporary traffic control, and flagger training, which is the area that I've gotten to know her quite well on. And Joe, he started with MnDOT in 1989 as a highway maintenance worker in the Zumbrota truck station. After over 19 years working in maintenance, Joe was promoted to statewide winter maintenance coordinator, also known as the Salt Solutions Coordinator. After 3 years working with the Salt Solutions program, Joe took a mobility assignment to work as an implementation coordinator for the MDSS/AVL project. A lot of letters in that. I'm sure he's going to explain what all those letters stand for. So he's been working with a lot of things related to AVL, automated vehicle location, and MDSS for the past few years. And his current position with MnDOT is a transportation team leader in the Road Weather Technology Group that manages MDSS, AVL, RWIS, Salt Solutions Program. Okay, well with that, they sound very impressive, so please help me welcome Joe and Kathy.
Thank you, Ken. I don't know, it's a pretty tough act to follow. I don't know if I can live up to his humor. Okay, so I want to talk to you a little bit about what MnDOT does, our Office of Maintenance, concerning snow and ice. And section of our...
Oh, you're good.
I work in the training section, and I work very closely with our research people and with the road weather technology people. We all work very closely together. And so I'm going to talk about the training and research aspects, and Joe's going to talk about the road weather stuff. So I don't know about you, but when I go to my holiday functions, I get lots of questions about what does MnDOT do, especially when it comes to, you know, the snow and ice and snow plowing and whatever else. So it's just a shot of one of our Christmas parties and just some of my family. And, you know, I think this might be able to help you answer some of those questions if you get bombarded like I do. So I'm going to start out talking about one of our biggest endeavors in our training program is the SPOT program, or Snowplow Operator Training. And this is a shot of them up at Camp Ripley. And we've been doing this since 2004. We've trained 1,587 trainees have come through this program. And it's a 2-week session that they go through, and they learn every aspect of the truck and how to handle it and everything else. Let's see, this year we had 2 sessions, so 2-week sessions, and let's see, we trained 175 people in those 2 sessions. Gotta make sure I'm getting the numbers right here. So prior to the start of our training session, there is a 1-week train the trainer also. And so we have Brian Barrett there, and he's working with some of the trainers. And the trainers include MnDOT supervisors, truck station supervisors, and TGS, which would be the Transportation Generalist Senior, and snowplow drivers. So there's kind of a wide variety of different people who come up to help with the training. So these folks spent 5 weeks up there this year, and a lot of years we do have 2 training sessions. And I think this is just kind of a cool shot. This is a shot of an aerial photo of the obstacle courses that they are learning to drive through, and then you see those little buildings there. Those are actually, they pull underneath there, and the trainers work with them, and they teach them all of the aspects of what is under the hood of that truck. So then you get down on the ground, and it's a lot different view. The trucks are all outfitted with plows and wings, and it's to teach the drivers how to maneuver through very, very tight situations. And you might say, well, why do you have to have it so tight and know those clearances so well? Well, a friend of mine, he plowed out of, or he still plows out of Cedar, and the route that he used to have was 35W. You think, oh, big deal, a big wide freeway, not a big deal. So these trucks have to turn around somewhere and head back. And his turnaround was downtown Minneapolis, and he's turning around on city streets, and with a tandem axle truck with a plow and a wing on it. So you got to be able to really maneuver those trucks very, very well. Backing is another big issue, and they work a lot with the operators on how to back those trucks and back them up so that you know exactly where the rear end of that truck is. They got to be able to come within inches of that Type 3 barricade there. And they train rain or shine. Now this year they were fortunate, they had some pretty good weather, but in past years it can be just a soupy mess out there. But they still go through all the training, and I think it's pretty impressive. They stay over, they live in the barracks there for the full 2 weeks, I should say that. And then once they've gotten used to operating that truck, they go out on the roads in the Little Falls area, and they go out with a trainer, and they're assessed on how they handle that truck, how they handle it in real-world conditions with other traffic on city streets and county highways and such. We get a lot of visitors up there, too. And this year we had a big group of legislators came up and wanted to learn more about what we do in the SPOT training. And here Brian Barrett is explaining to a legislative aide about the cutting edge on that wing and how you can't let it wear too much. If it wears into the moldboard, then you have a very expensive repair. So it's just kind of neat. They're featured in the news on that, I have cable, or satellite, it's Channel 45, the public television station up there. I think they broadcast from somewhere in that area. So they always do a segment also. Now, the operators also learn how to handle all of the equipment and run all the equipment that's in the cab of that truck. And there is a lot of equipment. The sander controls. That's a big thing. We switched over from one type to another. We used to use the Dickie John, now we use Force America, and there's a learning curve. Now, let's see, it's just mouse. See if I can get this to There. Now this is a photo or a video of sort of the old school way of sander control. Oops. Okay, go back. Okay, how do we do this?
Just right click because it's.
Oh, right click.
Go previous.
Okay. Let's see if I can get that to run. There we go. This was just this winter, early December. Somebody videotaped this. A little bit, not quite as high tech as what we use, but it seems to be, I guess, effective.
Some may not, the video may not work through some link, but so if you describe what's happening, that would be helpful.
Okay, so this is a snowplow dump truck, and there are two guys in the back, and they're throwing salt out of the truck onto the roadway. So I guess this was just taken this early winter down in Mexico. So our sander controls and the controls in the truck are a little more high tech than that. There are joysticks. There's all the buttons for all of the different strobe lights. The radio. They have to learn how to handle and how to work all of these components. And this is just a shot of our new Dickie John controllers, and I'll talk a little bit more about these in a minute. So once the trainees get out of training and they go out to their truck stations, we continually train them. So now we have our simulator training. We have one that's stationary, that's housed at Arden Hills. And then we have the mobile one, and this travels throughout the state to the different districts, stays in the district for a couple of weeks. And this is available not just to MnDOT, but to local agencies too. We encourage them to send snowplow operators to the simulator training. And the trainers can program different scenarios and different kind of situations into what they're going to be doing. You can see the cab, the dash looks similar to what our snowplow trucks look like. They can, simulate whiteout conditions, blowing snow conditions, all kinds of things. And the trainers assess these operators on a lot of different things, just like they had been assessed at spot on their ability to manage their speed, their ability to manage the clearance around the truck, and a number of other things. Another training that our office provides is our material application training, and it's really important for operators to understand a lot about these materials, these chemicals that we use. Now, they understand about the safety component. That just kind of goes without saying. But they need to also understand about the mobility and the fact that we need to operate within budget and the environmental concerns. And there are some huge environmental concerns, and our office works closely with MPCA to make sure that we're not harming the environment. We teach the operators about using the right material in the right amount at the right time. And so, okay, they've already gone through, made a pass, applied chemical, now they're coming back, they're going to make another pass. How much material should I be applying on this pass? Should I decrease it? Is there still some brine present? You can imagine there's quite a bit of guesswork involved with that. Now, experienced operators get a pretty good feel for it, but it's still kind of guesswork. So Joe's going to talk about the new technology that is coming about to help reduce that guesswork. We train them on how these materials lose their effectiveness as the road temperature drops, and they really lose it quickly. So pavement temperature is what we always talk about. Now, if the pavement temperature is 30 degrees, 1 pound of salt, which would probably pretty much fill up this water bottle, 1 pound of salt will melt 46 pounds of ice in about 5 minutes. Works just like that. But you can see as the temperature drops, at 20 degrees, 1 pound of salt, that same 1 pound, will melt 8.5 pounds of ice, and it's going to take 20 minutes. And 15 degrees is what we call the cutoff point. At 15 degrees, 1 pound of salt will melt 6 pounds of ice, and it's going to take an hour. Now, just imagine you've got chunks of rock salt sitting on that icy road, and you've got 20 cars going by at 40 miles an hour. Is that salt going to stay on the road? Not a chance. It's going to blow off. So, 15 degrees is our cutoff unless you're getting it wet, and that's the key. So we do a lot of work to get that salt wet so it reduces the bounce and scatter and the blow. So on a tandem axle truck like you see here, we have those saddle tanks and on both sides of the truck, and they hold about 100 gallons each. And they calibrate it, it's gravity flow, it's calibrated to deliver about 14 gallons per ton, somewhere in that neighborhood. It isn't rocket science. It's just, like I said, it's gravity flow. And it's designed so that the liquid will run out about the same time the granular does. So you know that you got it about right if they're running out at about the same time. And we can put other materials in those tanks. Sometimes it'll be a mag chloride product. Maybe it'll be a calcium chloride product. But we use pre-wet on all of our applications. Another tool that we're starting to use is these slurry trucks. And we have about 15 of them in the state right now, and we kind of took this idea from Iowa. And so this truck will still have the 2 saddle tanks on the outside, but they have 2 400-gallon tanks on the inside of the truck, which displaces a lot of the granular that you can carry. But you don't need as much granular anymore because this is applying about 90 gallons of brine to every ton of salt, as opposed to the other, which is 14 gallons per ton. So it comes out like a sort of runny oatmeal consistency. It kind of flops on the road and it stays put. And operators will tell you that if they've got a compacted road and they do one of these applications, it breaks just like that. It works just almost spontaneously. So this is something that we're going to continue to expand. Another way that we get our salt wet is by stockpile treatments. And this mobile conveyor was a research project that came out of our office. And you can see the loader in the background. It'll load that big hopper with salt, and then there's, I think this is calcium chloride, isn't it, Joe?
Yep.
Yeah, this is a calcium chloride being applied to that salt. And this is mobile. It'll travel throughout the state. Some local agencies have taken advantage of this as well. This type of application, we're applying about 6 gallons per ton. If we put much more in than that, we'll get leaching. This particular day, it was probably 25 below. It was a miserable day to be out there treating the salt, and we had some problems because it was so thick, that liquid, but we got it working. Okay, so another strategy that we use is to treat the roads prior to an event. Anti-icing is what we call it. And so back in 2010, we, out of our office, did some research dollars, and we developed this anti-icing guide. And this is available for outstate districts or districts that want to expand their anti-icing program, or it's for local agencies that even want to just begin an anti-icing program. And it talks about why we would do this, and we do it to help reduce the overall amount of material we might use, and it helps to buy time because if we get a snowstorm that it starts at midnight, especially outstate, not here in the metro where we have 24-hour coverage, but a snowstorm starts at midnight, crews don't come in until say 4 or 5 a.m., you're going to have some compaction. So it's easier to scrape off that snow if there's already some chemical present on the roadway. Talk about when and where it's most effective, and the how to blend materials. If you want to blend some calcium, some brine, and some molasses, how to blend that in the right ratios. And let's see, there was another how I can't think of it though. Oh, how to calibrate for liquid applications so that you're applying the 30 to 40 gallons per lane mile that you probably are going to shoot for. Another training that we provide out of our office is calibration training, and it's important that trucks are calibrated so that if the operator sets that control at 400 pounds per lane mile, they know they're getting 400 pounds. So we developed a couple of different guides back in, I think it was 2009, on how to calibrate different controllers, the Dickie John manual controllers, and also the Force America controllers. We did the guide for the Force America controllers because back in 2009, local agencies in Minnesota almost exclusively use that Force America type controller. Well, a couple of years ago, our equipment committee decided that because Force America integrates better with the ABL system that Joe's going to talk about, that we have switched over. All new trucks get the Force America controllers now. So Joe and I realized that there's no way we could get out to all of the truck stations in Minnesota to teach them how to calibrate these trucks. So we worked with Steve Klebeck from Force America and put out these YouTube videos on how to operate, a quick review on how to operate them, how to calibrate them, and also how to upload updates to the software. So this is training that is available on our MnDOT maintenance website. Now, we have a couple research programs that come out of our office, and Tom Peters and Ryan Oddie head up that program. We have the MORE program, and that's for projects that are under $1,500. If they exceed $1,500, then they need approval from the NUTREC committee. Now, I just want to talk about a couple of cool research projects that have come out of there. One is friction meters. And these would be, we have some on supervisors' pickup trucks, and we have a couple different types that are being tested. Two of them are infrared technology, and one is a G-force, where the driver would just touch the brakes, and you get a readout in the cab in real time of what those surface conditions are. So this dash display will show the air temp, the pavement temp, and the grip, if it's poor, if it's good, whatever. And you say, okay, well, $4,500 to $7,000 sounds kind of expensive. But Brian Wolfgram, a supervisor down in District 6, he tells an interesting story. There was a rain event, I think it was 2 years ago in the winter, and generally not this winter, but rain events mean you're going to have some really slippery conditions, flare ice probably. So the trucks were loaded up, they're out on the road, and Brian, in his supervisor's pickup, was driving around checking those roads. And they wanted to apply, get that salt down before it could get icy. And he kept saying, no, I've got a good reading on that grip. Hold off, don't apply, don't apply. So they didn't. They listened to their supervisor, and eventually the rain quit, the roads dried up, and no salt was applied in that non-event. And if you figure salt costs about $70 a ton, maybe a little bit more now, that piece of equipment paid for itself in that one non-event. So I think this is something that we'll see expanding. Another project out of District 6, this is kind of interesting. Now, these projects come from the maintenance workers, too. I want to say that. They see these, they read about them, they hear about them, and so this is kind of a grassroots research program. And down in the southeastern part of the state, they have what's called the karst topography, and it has to do with the type of rock in that area and also something to do with the way the glaciers didn't get that far down into that part of the state. And that type of topography, it's very characteristic to have caves and sinkholes and especially underground springs that run all winter long. And because of that, they have many, many problem culverts. Those springs, they get to the surface and they freeze up in the wintertime. And so they've got a lot of problems and the water freezes over the road, et cetera, et cetera. So they came up with this, somebody heard about this idea, solar powered culvert heat tape. And got two shots here. The one on the right is I-90 just south of Rochester. And they've got, way in the far distance, there's a pipe that freezes up. Water backs up through that median on I-90. And as you can imagine, that's a pretty dangerous situation. If it comes up on the road, 70-mile-an-hour road, that's going to be a problem. The other one on the left here is, I think it's Minneista, I think is the name of the town. And this is on Highway 61, southern Minnesota again. And you can see that blue smudge there. Up on the hillside, the water runs out of a little underground stream that seeps constantly. And it goes into that culvert and eventually freezes up. And water goes over the road right there before Highway 61. Again, a problem culvert. So they installed this system on those two locations. And it's a flexible heat tape. And it's powered on only when necessary with a big, this picture doesn't show it real well. That solar panel is quite large. And it holds the right temperature to keep it from freezing up. So this was a project they did last winter. It worked. In one location, it worked really well. The other location, they had some problems with the equipment. But again, I think this is something that we're going to see perhaps used in the future, especially in southeastern Minnesota. So another research program that is run out of our office is the Clear Roads Pool Fund. Tom Peters heads this up, and it's a consortium of 32 states across the northern part of the U.S. and even some of those center states that we call them the fringe states. And they pool their money for research programs that have to do with winter maintenance. 100%, it's all about winter maintenance. So cool projects, check it out on clearroads.org. I encourage you to look at some of the things we're doing there. And a couple of projects that are completed over here on the left, checking or looking at the toxicity of de-icing materials. It's a big issue, not just here in Minnesota, but all over. And so they looked at salt, magnesium chloride, calcium chloride, and then materials like potassium acetate. And it was amazing. I thought salt is the least toxic to aquatic organisms. The other products, especially the ones that have organic components to them, that molasses or beet juice or acetates, those have that BOD and COD. As they decompose, that's really toxic to those little tiny critters that live in the water. So something important for people to understand, especially in an area that has some sensitive waters. Another one that just recently finished up was the cost-benefit analysis of different winter maintenance strategies. And as you can probably figure, plowing is the most cost-effective, but it's more cost-effective if it's supplemented with using chemicals. But sometimes it's not the practice. I'm not going to say, where I've seen it, but I definitely have seen it when there's just one of those little nuisance snowfalls, maybe a ½ inch to an inch. Operators might think, I'll just go burn it off and apply just chemical, and that is not cost effective. That's what this study determined. There's another project over there on the right that is just in the process of being completed. And this is how to plow some of these new interchanges that we're dealing with. And we're seeing popping up not just here in Minnesota, but all over the country. And so that photo down on the bottom, that is actually something I found on the MnDOT website. And it's how to drive a diverging diamond interchange. Well, how do you plow them? So Clear Roads worked with our office and a couple of other states on how plow drivers, what's the most effective and efficient way to plow through these interchanges. They're also looking at not only diverging diamond, but the single point, J-turn, roundabouts, and a number of other interchanges as well. And what's going to come out of this will be an animated video that's sort of shot from above and showing which way those plow trucks should be moving through that interchange. So I think that's going to be real useful to train operators, especially when we start getting more of these in different parts of the state, parts of the country, I should say. Okay, and last but not least, I want to talk about our research program that we have for local agencies here in Minnesota. And this has been going since 2003. And in that time, we've awarded over $500,000 worth of projects to local agencies. And again, a lot of these are sort of homegrown. People come up with them on their own. And these two here are a couple of homegrown ones, came right out of well, the salt chute up there on the top, that's a Washington County project. And again, we want to reduce that bounce and scatter. So if we can deliver the salt closer to the pavement, it's going to stay put better than if it's delivered, from 2.5 feet high. So this is kind of cool. The one they made used scrap materials. They fabricated it in their shop. And it attaches to the spinner motor. Salt falls off of the spinner, the holes are drilled in it, falls down, and then is delivered right onto the pavement. And this one is nice because the operator can adjust it more behind the truck or more closer to center line, depending on what type of road they're working on and how they want that salt delivered. The one on the left here, that came out of Stearns County, and it's an airfoil. Now, as we get more and more of these LED strobe lights on the rear of the truck, well, all over the truck, we're having problems because they don't have the heat like our regular lamps used to have, and the snow builds up, and we see rear-end collisions because motorists can't see the trucks. So Stearns County fabricated this airfoil, and it just attaches with wing nuts to the top sides of the box, and it forces the air down across that rear strobe and keeps them clean. And there's a number of different ones that are in use all around the state. MnDOT has fabricated a bunch for our trucks as well. And this is a project that came out of Scott County. And they're having problems in Scott County where the snowmobile trails are crossing the highways, and it's tearing up the road. So they wanted to try something. They found a manufacturer in, I think it was Michigan, and they applied these layers of thermoplastic material, and they offset it to make sure that the plows wouldn't peel it up. We've got to work around those plows, of course. And after 2 years, they just wrote the final report, and after 2 years, the locations where they have this thermoplastic material had minimal damage compared to the locations where they didn't have any coating. So this year here in Metro, we're having what we call an open winter. And one of the questions that I also get at my family gatherings is, what in the heck do plow drivers do when they're not plowing or when there's no snow? So this is very fortunate for me. Just last week, Greg Coughlin sent out just a list of things of what plow drivers do in the wintertime when we're not plowing snow. And it's just amazing how busy they are. They are fixing aggregate shoulders, pothole repair, pothole patching, culvert and culvert end repairs, guardrail, of course, people are still running off the road, fence repairs, again, people are running off the road, tree and brush removal, storm drain repairs, and the list goes on and on. So our maintenance crews are busy all winter long doing other things. So now, when you arrive at your family gathering this Christmas and people ask about some of the things that MnDOT does, you can tell them that our crews are well trained, are very innovative, and they keep themselves busy. So
Say, Kathy, one thing to add to that.
Yes.
Is that they keep themselves busy. Maintenance is never caught up.
No, you're right. They're never caught up. They are always working behind and putting out fires. So, thank you. And with that, I'll turn it over to Joan.
No, I was just saying, whoop, whoop.
Oh.
You know, no, it was whoop, whoop to me.
That's my dog.
All right, well, I'll just get right into this. Like Ken said, I work with the Office of Maintenance. I work closely with Kathy Schaefer, and our whole office works together. But I'm going to talk today about MDSS AVL. A lot of acronyms, but it's kind of an interesting program, and it's sort of new to MnDOT and how we are doing things. So Maintenance Decision Support System is what it stands for, and it takes a lot of information. This is a website that we subscribe to. Maintenance Decision Support System works separately. It's a standalone system that integrates a lot of information, decision logic system, obviously, and it integrates the current weather, maintenance actions, road forecasted information, road weather information, gathering it from trucks, from RWIS sites, road weather information sites, and even now our trucks. And it takes all that information. It also has level of service is tied into this system, so all of our routes have level of service tied to them, and pavement type and subsurface type all tied into this system. And that transforms all of this information, everything that it gathers from this system, everything that it collects from the roadway, and everything that it has available to it that we put into the system. I suppose I should advance my slide. And it provides us a real-time recommendation back to the operators. And it's really designed around snow and ice, obviously. And what it's designed to do is to really save our resources. It saves us money, not only in salt usage, but in equipment hours and just timing of applications that we do to our roadways. So a lot of increase in productivity based off of this program. It's kind of a proven system that's been handled all over the nation, and we've been working on this for a couple of years, and we're finally getting it fine-tuned and implementing it fully at MnDOT. So the other part of this system, like I said, MDSS works by itself. It's a standalone system, and we also incorporated what we call an AVL system, Automated Vehicle Location System, into this also. Technology in a vehicle, it's just used to determine the location of the vehicle. And it also, in our setting, it takes a lot of information and it passes it from the vehicle back and forth to data centers. We collect a lot of information from the vehicle itself, transports that into a data center that's housed by our vendor, which actually now we're in the process of bringing it all internal to MnDOT. So in the very near future, we're going to host all of this data on a MnDOT site. But what this does is it provides real-time information for the operator with weather, current weather, radars, and it also provides them a recommendation based on all of the information that is gathered from the MDSS system, and it provides a real-time feedback back to the operator in terms of how many times, when timing of application, how much salt to put down, even if you should put salt down at all. It actually it recognizes it, and there's parameters set into every single route that would give the system information. Do we even put applications on the road at this time? Sometimes we have high wind events out in the western part of the state, or really anywhere, and roads that really catch wind, you're obviously not going to go down and put down chemical, because you're just going to become a big collector of snow and you're going to cause more problems than it's worth. So it has all of that information is gathered and inputted for every single route in MnDOT, and that's really what the system works off of and how it provides the information back. So what MnDOT did is we wanted to tie the two together, obviously, to give us the best system that we possibly could get. And what that obviously does is it provides us real-time feedback to the operators. So what it has available to it, and I'll go through some of the screens quickly later, what the operator has to see in the truck, or what he has the ability to see, he or she, I should say, I'm sorry. But latest recommendations is the big thing. This is tied right to your route, and it gives the operator a recommendation of salt usage and timing both. There's 3 different radar screens that you can look at. current radar, a future radar that goes out into the future about an hour and a half, nearby snowplow locations, and this is what we call a truck-centered radar. So the truck is always in the center of the radar, and all of the other AVL-equipped trucks in the vicinity will show on that map, so the operator knows where the other trucks are in relationship to him or her, and it forces accountability really for what we're doing. There's been a lot of studies done on salt wasting and how who's the biggest culprits of wasted salt, and it's really 80% of the salt is usually wasted by 20% of the operators. And this is the type of system that is really designed to kind of capture that type of information and really kind of get a handle on some of that stuff. So it really has the ability to save a lot of resources for MnDOT and for other agencies too. Where we are currently, we have light duties and over 600 trucks now. This slide is a little bit dated. It's a couple months old. But we're probably over 620 or so trucks that are implemented now in MnDOT. 26 light duty trucks, which are usually supervisor pickups. We have some in supervisors pickups all over the state. And then recently, the Metro did a project for mower tractors, and we have 40 AVLs installed into mower tractors now. And that's kind of a separate system that tracks more weed patches and things like that, brings the live map into the cab with the operator, and they can see where the weed patches are, so we're not mowing through weed patches and dragging them and spreading them into new areas. So a lot of other things that we're doing. We have a herbicide a group that we kind of started, and that's been sort of put on the back burner for now with Metro that we really haven't done much with. But as we get caught up, we're going to start implementing some of these other things. So we have a lot of funding that we got to start this project in MnDOT, and a lot of it came from the federal government. We call it IMO project, Integrated Mobile Observations, and we've had certain things that we've had to do for those. Part of the camera project was with some of the IMO money. There's a project going on right now, and for the life of me, I can't remember it off the top of my head. It's with traffic. I'm sure you've been involved in that. It's to do with connected vehicle. It's kind of the beginning process of connected vehicle. So we're starting just some small projects with that through the IMO, but we've gotten a tremendous amount of money. Most of the implementation that we did with all of the equipment through MnDOT was mostly paid by federal money. So we've been pretty fortunate that way. So this is what the maintenance decision support system looks like on the desktop of the. If you have access to the MDSS, you can get onto the website. You can go to this system. It's very, very complicated. If you're a weather geek, this is the place for you. You can look at many different versions of weather. You can dissect this out, but mostly right now, I'll just show you kind of a quick look at what we can see. We do have the ability to look at cameras throughout the state. All of our RWIS stations have cameras, and there's some other private sites that we have access to through cameras. On the bottom, you can go through a play and pause. You can back all of this up many hours, and you can play that storm all the way through. You can go into the future, and it'll predict where the storm is going into the future. It gives you all the weather observations. If you see up on the top part, you can pick like FAA sites. You can put on there what you want to look at for FAA sites. You can do temperatures. You can do weather observations, many different picks. You can see RWIS sites. You can do, I think there's probably 15 different things you can pick on that. Just what you want to display on your map. Radars, there's many layers to this map. Any way you want to look at weather, you can look at it on this thing. So it's quite interesting. And then it also has a lot of the routes are also displayed on here, and you can click onto routes and you can see different parts of the routes also. The other thing it has is weather service, National Weather Service alerts. You can subscribe to weather service alerts, all of this stuff up here on the side. You can pick whatever weather service alerts you want. It'll color code the map by National Weather Service alerts will color coded by county. You can also do road alerts, which will it'll change the routes to different colors depending on what type of alert it's got going on. So, and then it gives you just a detail of the weather forecast also. And like I said, there's thousands of different ways to look at this, and it's quite a complicated system. But if you ever have the ability to get into that and to use it, it's pretty interesting. Like I said before, you can click right onto the routes. You can go right onto the routes and you can look at what's going on. All of the routes are color-coded based on what's going on with them. Up on the top, you get a little legend that tells you what's going on, if it's dry, if it's wet, snow, ice, slush, even chemically wet. Some of our RWIS sites have pavement sensors in them, so you know whether it's chemically wet or whether it's just wet, whether it's ice. Our truck locations will be on the map, so you can go right onto a truck and you can click on a truck and see where the trucks are and what they're doing, and you can actually click on the truck and it'll give you a little short description of what's going on inside of the actual truck that's on the road. The route forecast itself, every route is clickable. You click on the route and you can go into it and you can look at a detailed forecast of each route. You can look at all of the different weather parameters and you can look at all the different pavement parameters, and you can pick, there's probably 40 or 50 different selections you can make to show on your graph. Obviously, unless you're really a weather geek, you're not going to probably do that, but you kind of want to look at what's most important to you on the routes that are important to you. So it kind of gives you a little idea of what you have available, and it also gives managers the ability to go in here. If you see on the bottom of the screen, it's what we call the recommendations. When I talked about the recommendations getting brought back into the vehicle, the recommendations show up on here, and then this is actually fed back to the truck, and it comes into the truck as a recommendation. I'll show you that, what it looks like in the truck. But down on the bottom, it gives you, like for instance, from 600 pounds per lane mile. That's sort of excessive in my opinion, but that's where this system will gather all this information, it'll process it, and then it'll puke it back out to the trucks and say, this is what we want you to do, and this is when we want you to do it. And that's all based on information that we put in, how long it takes you to get back to your particular route, how long it takes you to actually do your route. We call it traversal and cycle times for each route. So that's kind of how this is all thrown back out to the truck, and that's how the two systems kind of work together. It gives you an idea of how much, what the depth of the snow is. If it's been plowed, then this kind of resets itself. The system kind of understands how much residual effect of chemical is still on the road, and that ties back into the recommendations. So it'll keep track of how much snow depth was on the route when it was a maintenance action was done to it, and then it'll kind of recalculate, and then it'll say, okay, I think I got this much residual back on the road, and then it'll give you another recommendation based on what it has to work with after that. So, like I was saying before, if you click onto one of the trucks, this gives you all the information for the truck number, what material they're putting down at the time, what the sander is set at, or not what it's set at, but what the actual rate is. So this one is at 404.6 at the selected time that it was taken. The road condition, the operator has the ability to put in a road condition for each route, or for each right on the ABL screen. You can put in a weather condition. There's a lot of different functions for that. And then it'll tell you the air temperature and the road temperature from the truck. That each truck has a pavement sensor and an air temp sensor, and it'll feed that stuff back into this system too. And you can go on the truck right on we call it the graphical user interface, and you go right on the truck and see what's going on right in the truck. At some point, we'd like to get the camera images back on there also. So, and then down on the bottom, it'll tell you what the recommendations are for that particular route too. So it's kind of a very advanced system. And this is just an example of and this is kind of typical of what we've had the last couple of days. Temperatures hovering right around the freezing mark, kind of dips down below around 32, 33 degrees. And down on the bottom, it tells you a maintenance action of patrol for ice accumulations. It really doesn't tell you we need X amount of salt, we need this, we need that. But I was in Rochester yesterday, working out of Rochester, and it was raining when I got there. It was raining hard when I got there. And I was looking at MDSS, and it was kind of funny because looking at the presentation I was going to do, and it was almost mirroring what was happening in Rochester yesterday. But the temperature started to drop, got down to about 33 degrees, and it just started snowing like crazy. And it was still just calling for patrol for, just patrol for ice. And I think some of the operators were questioning, it's like, why is it just calling for patrol for ice? But what was happening is the pavement temperature was still sitting at 33 degrees. It was daylight. We always have a little bit of radiant heat during the day, even if it's very cloudy. And it was very slushy, wet. I mean, it was just plowed off and go home. And so that was very close to what we had going on here. So maintenance actions don't typically match exactly with what's proposed for this thing, but a lot of times operators get a little antsy. There's a little ice, I got to get rid of it, and so we have a little bit of discrepancy there sometimes. We got a lot of overachievers for operators, which is great. Everybody wants to do a great job, but the system is kind of trying to tell you, if you went out and plowed it off in this situation, you're going to be okay. It's sometimes trying to take a little bit of you got to believe what the thing is telling you and have a little faith in the system. So yesterday was a very good example of how that works. On the MDSS GUI part of it, this is the latest version of the graphical user interface, and now there's a new thing that we just had, these dashboards that were just added to this. It brings up just a little bit of a summary, and on every one of these routes that's colored, the yellow routes, you can go on there and you can click on that route and you can add it to your dashboard. So what it is just a real quick look at your particular area that you want to look at. You can click onto that route, it'll pull it up, it'll give you a quick synopsis of the weather. It's going to tell you what the past 24 hours high and low temperatures, what the future is going to be. It'll tell you what they're predicting for wind speed and wind gusts. It's going to predict the dew point and air temperature. And it's just a very quick look at things that you want to look. You don't have to get really deep into the system to see what you want to see. This is the larger picture of what each one of the dashboards looks like. And down at the bottom, if there was an event that was going on or going to begin, it would give you the maintenance actions for that particular route. So a nice quick look at what you're going to do and how you want to look at it. And this is the AVL system in the vehicle. I'll run through this kind of quick. I know we're running out of time, but this is what the operator sees in the vehicle. I took some snapshots of this through the interface that we can log into a truck. So when I was talking about weather conditions and road conditions, this is what the operator does. They cannot get into the radar and look at the radar unless they put in road and weather conditions. It will not allow you to get into any of that until you put in the road conditions and weather conditions. That's the way we can ensure that we're getting feedback to the MDSS system that we want that makes that work better. Road and air temperatures are always getting fed back to the system, so we're getting current information from that. And some of the other interfaces, we have end of shift and a bare lane button. The bare lane button is something that we're working on, trying to get that incorporated into the whole thing. There's also a forecast, a 12-hour forecast that the operator has the ability to see, and this is very valuable when you're starting a shift. It gives the operator idea, do I go out there, do I hit it, what do I do with this, and when is the wind going to pick up? Wind is always a big one. Kathy and I work statewide for a lot of people, and wind is a huge thing when it comes to snow removal. You want to make sure you can get out there and get your things done before you're going to hit the wind. They want to get that pavement dry before the wind starts. So that's a good tool for operators is to take a quick look at and see when am I going to get the wind, if I'm going to get it. Now, this is the radar I was talking about. When you open up the radar, you have one function. You can zoom in one time. This is just a very simple radar. And then this is a truck center radar I was talking about. Your truck will always be in the center of the radar. All of the other trucks that are AVL equipped will be around you, and it'll give you a truck number on there. This you can zoom in to a pretty tight location. Very accurate radar. In my experience, this radar is extremely accurate. Once you get it tuned into a little tighter area, you can almost, as you cross roads and you see precipitation's going to start, it's usually there. So that's very accurate. And this is the recommendations that come back into the truck for the operator. This is from that system. It ties it right into here. Gives the operator an idea of, and this is tied to cycle times, how long it takes that operator to get back to that particular route. So that's where the timing comes from. And in this particular situation, it's probably hovering around the 32 degree, 34 degree mark. So it's just kind of, patrol for ice accumulations and different times of the day and depending on the forecast. And then the thing that our operators are really liking now is the end of shift report. What the system does is it keeps track of all of the salt that's put out during an event. And if an operator goes on more than one route, it'll automatically, from the sander control, keep track of what you used. And by geographical location, it'll keep track of what you used per route. So After the shift is over, operator can go into their end of shift report and find out exactly what they used and exactly what route it used. It helps us to keep a lot better track of our salt usage and where the salt went to what route. This is what the AVL system looks like in the truck. In a Sterling type truck, it's behind the driver's seat. In an International, it's between the two seats. The main processor is a silver box. That's the computer itself, and then this is all the charge guards and all of the safety things that go along with making sure we don't get surges through the system, and all of that kind of protects the computer a little bit. Other uses for the AVL, we've gotten, like I said before, we're using it in a mower tractor. Some people are using it in stripers, crews, so they can kind of keep track of wind. They can see where the wind is coming if they're going to have wind. And then, like I said before, we're doing a little something with the herbicide spraying, but that project is kind of on hold right now, and the mowers are getting going. Also, we have 250 cameras, dash cameras that we just implemented. We're in the process of getting those installed. Those have all been delivered to the districts, and they're kind of responsible to get them installed into the trucks. And we're going to test it this year, and the ultimate goal for this project is to get those images into 511, and by September of next year is kind of the date that we picked that we're supposed to get all of these images into 511. This is just what it looks like from the dash of my pickup when we were up in Thief River Falls a few weeks ago, and I have a camera in my pickup, so this is kind of what it looks like from the dash of a light-duty vehicle. The other thing our program is doing is we've implemented RWIS systems into 511. That was done just recently. And this is what it looks like if you pull up the weather stations on 511, all of the little thermometers come up. You can click on one of the thermometers. Across the state, it'll take you to that site. It'll kind of, if there's cameras on that site, on the RWIS site, it'll just flip all of the different cameras. It'll kind of cycle through and gives you all the weather conditions that's being collected from that particular RWIS site. So that's a nice little interface that we've got going with 511 right now. So that's all I got. If you have questions, go ahead.
You just mentioned if the RWIS site has a camera, but all RWIS sites have a camera.
Yeah, I think sometimes I should have said if they got them, if they're working.
Okay.
And they're pretty good. For the most part, we got them working, and they're pretty well.
You mentioned that MnDOT's taken over the host site, MDSS from Ontaris, I believe is your vendor.
Yep.
How's that progressing? Do they want to do it? Slow it down every week.
I'm
involved with that integration.
It's
MDSS. So.
we had our meeting today, and it's going slower than I would like it, but it's hopefully by the end of the week we're going to be very close. Say that it's very close, without getting into too many details.
I just don't see you had problems at first, but then it seemed like you figured it out and moving forward.
Yeah, I'm hoping by the end of the week we're going to have that up and running, or by middle of next week. It'll be a nice Christmas present when you put it there. Any other questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you to Joe and Kathy for presenting for us today, and then everyone can look for an announcement for next month, January. It'll be the third Tuesday of the month, like it usually is. Thanks.